Greetings, Moadib. Why do autistic people seem to like sci-fi and fantasy so much? Please stick around to find out. Hi friends, my name is Claire and this is my channel, Woodshed Theory. Here I make videos about what it is like to live as an adult on the autism spectrum and whatever else feels good to me. So if that sounds good to you, or if you're feeling particularly gracious today, and I hope that you are, please go ahead and click the subscribe button, ring the bell. I almost forgot to mention that I put out videos 3 times a week. Today I am getting ready to go view a midnight showing of Dune, which is coming out in theaters. So I thought it might be fun if I did a get ready with me mixed with talking about why autistic people seem to love fantasy, sci-fi, movies, and genres. I feel perhaps I should apologize for the lighting today because I'm having trouble getting it figured out, so I'm sorry ahead of time. I also need to say thank you because we just reached 700 subscribers on my channel, which means I am 300 subscribers and 1,000 watch hours away from becoming monetized. So I really appreciate your support. It really means a lot to me. If you're not an adult living under a rock, you've probably noticed a correlation between people who are into sci-fi and fantasy and people who are on the spectrum. It isn't always the case, right? Everyone on the spectrum is different and everyone likes different things. And there are some people who are on the spectrum who must not like sci-fi and fantasy. But in my experience, what I have found is that almost everyone I've met who is on the spectrum likes some form of sci-fi, fantasy genre. And I think that that correlation's pretty interesting, so we can talk about it. To me, it's kind of obvious why people like sci-fi, fantasy, people who are on the spectrum. And I really feel it comes down to communication issues. People on the spectrum are not able to communicate in the same fashion as people who are neurotypical. So it's really easy to immerse yourself or get really into fantasy worlds. I think especially because I know a lot of autistics are avid readers. It's so much easier to understand what someone is thinking in a book when you can actually read what their thoughts are. And you can kind of get a full picture of what's going on. Whereas a lot of times as an autistic person, you're kind of left in the dark. So it's fun to read stories about things that maybe are a little bit more fantastical or supernatural and get a full perspective on that, whereas we don't really get that perspective with normal human interactions. I think it's kind of similar to why it seems like a lot of autistic people enjoy RPGs and role-playing games, because it gives you an opportunity to step outside of yourself and maybe communicate more confidently as somebody else or better. The idea of not being tied to oneself and being able to be anything you'd like to be and not be weighed down by your social awkwardness. I think that's really enjoyable. It's kind of a way for autistic people to let loose a little bit. Another reason I could think of that autistic people might be really into sci-fi and fantasy is we're super creative. And not only are we super creative, but we love enjoying the creations of other people. So we're super creative and we also want to experience things that are super creative. We can read or watch something and then our brains can kind of take it to the next level, and that's really fun for us. Another reason I can think of is autistic people tend to be in-depth, out-of-the-box thinkers. In-depth, out-of-the-box thinkers. And we enjoy entertainment that shows us something different to what we're used to, and stories that give us character development that are different than what we're used to in our everyday lives. I think it also ties into special interests. For example, if you're really into the idea of space travel, or you really like conspiracy theories, then sci-fi would be super fun for you to watch because you'd be engaging in learning more about your special interest. So I'm going tonight to the 9:45 showing of the newest Dune iteration, and I think it should be pretty fun. I have seen the 1980s version of Dune, and I've also seen the, was it in the 90s or early 2000s when Sci-Fi took a crack at it? The Sci-Fi Channel? Not sure. And then also, of course, I have listened to the book tape, read the book, and I did a book club with my friends within the last year. So I think we're all looking forward to seeing it and seeing how we like this adaptation. For me personally, if I were going to adopt one piece of technology from the Dune universe, it would definitely be the suspenders that the Harkonnens wear, because they're so large and they want to take the gravity off themselves and kind of just float around. To me, I could chill with that. If I was going to take something from the book to use as a self-defense weapon, probably the Gom Jabbar. It's like brass knuckles of death. One of the things that I really like about the world of Dune is that women play a big role and are known as, you know, something more sacred. So I kind of like that, because sometimes in sci-fi it tends to be male-based. And there are some really kick-butt characters in the Dune series that are women. So what about you? Have you noticed that there seems to be a correlation between people who enjoy sci-fi and fantasy and people who are on the spectrum? I feel like it's plain to see, but I could be completely wrong. And I'm not saying that just because you're on the spectrum, or, sorry, I'm not saying just because you like sci-fi and fantasy you're on the spectrum. I'm just saying that it appears like there is a correlation. Kind of wanted to bring up the question of what is the correlation, because I think that perhaps a group of neurotypical people might think to themselves, well, autists are nerdy, and nerdy is what makes them like sci-fi, because nerds like sci-fi. But I don't think that that is the reason. I think that there's a deeper element to it that has to do with human connection, having a deep internal thought process and fantasy mind, and that's mixed in with the whole special interest thing and wanting to know more about science and the future and all that jazz. And no, this is not a Dune makeup tutorial, because if it was, I think, what would it look like? I would have bright blue eyes. I would have maybe some redness around my nose and my lips from all of the spice that I've been ingesting. My face might be very matte and dry because it's a sand planet. But I think I'm just not into the idea of dressing up for this premiere first showing of Dune, because it is way past my old person bedtime. Who starts a movie at 9:45? I know, so that it can end past midnight and then it's still technically the day it's supposed to be out. I get it. But there is no way I'm dressing up that late. I'm just gonna wear my lounge clothes and a little bit of makeup, and I think that that's good enough. Well, friends, I guess that is the video for the day. I hope it wasn't the worst. It's one of those things where it's just something I was thinking about and wanted to talk it out with you. How about you? What do you think are the correlations between autism and liking sci-fi and fantasy? Also, let me know in the comments below if you are House Atreides or House Harkonnen. There's only one right answer. I hope that you have a great Friday and a great weekend, and thanks again for 700, and I will see you next time. Bye!